How do you explain to a 6-year-old or a 2-year-old that it's not that your mommy doesn't want to be with you, it's that she's being forced to stay somewhere else?
A pregnant mother who can't go home, detained by immigration officials, and the impact of changing immigration policies on San Diego families.
The idea of a communal space where many cultures could mix and hang out, and where we could provide jobs.
Trans as the shop launched.
Pay It Forward, serving up opportunities with coffee in City Heights. And safe haven for this tiger cub at the San Diego Zoo. What's next after his unexpected journey from the other side of the border? KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. President Trump has broadened the focus of his immigration crackdown from serious criminals to anyone in the country illegally. In San Diego, immigration officials have said enforcement priorities haven't changed much. But earlier this month, a local family says their sister, a pregnant mother, was detained on her way to work. KPBS Frontiers reporter Jean Guerrero has more.
So this is my silly sister. So as you can see, she's beautiful. She's 28.
Isabel and Carmen Solis show me pictures of their younger sister, Maria.
So she's always so playful with her girls, and she's making, as you can see, faces.
Always doing little selfies with their girls and doing silly faces and, sending it to the family.
Their parents, a U.S. citizen and a legal permanent resident, brought Maria to the U.S. from Mexico when she was just a year old. Now Maria has 3 children of her own. She supports them by working at a deli. Isabel says that earlier this month, Maria was walking to work from her home in Oceanside when she was detained by immigration officials.
She had the opportunity just to make that phone call, to call my mom and said, I'm being detained. Can you please watch the girls?
While Isabel and Carmen are U.S. citizens, Maria is not. That's because when she was a teenager, she briefly went to live in Mexico with some relatives. In 2007, she was caught trying to cross back into the U.S. illegally, which put a red flag on her immigration record. Now Maria is at this detention center in Otay Mesa. Maria's sisters are concerned about her welfare because she's not the average detainee.
When my sister is pregnant, we found out through this situation. They hadn't even informed the family that she's a few weeks pregnant. And the treatment that she's receiving in the facility is concerning. Due to the high levels of stress, she is having premature labor cramping, and the facility seems to not have a medical provider on site every day.
Since KPBS began investigating Maria's case, her sisters say Maria has received an extra mattress in her cell and has had her mandatory blood work done. But Carmen says it took weeks for that to happen, and they're still worried. Maria told Carmen she's being required to deep clean her room, which involves heavy lifting and exposure to chemicals.
She said that a lot of the women who were there, they had a lot of miscarriages. Like a lot of those women were miscarrying in there. So that was her, she was scared that could happen to her too,
Maria's lawyer, Leah Chavarria, is asking Homeland Security to let Maria fight her case outside of detention. Chavarria says Maria qualifies for a U visa, an immigration status for victims of crimes. Maria says she suffered domestic abuse in the past, and her application for that status is pending.
She deserves to be released and live her life in the United States while she fights her immigration case. She's not a threat to the community, and in fact, the community strongly supports her. She has thousands of signatures on a petition.
Chavarria says immigration officials have the authority to release Maria on bond or an order of supervision.
We're paying valuable tax dollars to have her be detained. It's thousands of dollars that we're spending on her care in the detention center right now when she could be in the United States receiving care through her own means.
Maria's sisters say they hope she'll get a chance to fight deportation from home, where she can be with her children. For now, the family is taking turns caring for the girls.
How do you explain to a 6-year-old or a 2-year-old that it's not that your mommy doesn't want to be with you, it's that she's being forced to stay somewhere else? How do you explain that to them? It's hard for them to comprehend that. where's mommy? She's not coming. And every time someone knocks at that door, it's thinking, oh, I thought it was my mommy, but it's you.
Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
An ICE spokeswoman says while in custody, Solis is receiving prenatal care and that any decision about her release will be based upon potential dangers to the community and risk of flight. In ads, Solis illegally entered the U.S. more than once after being removed, which is a felony. The ban on transgender military service members is now official. Today, President Trump directed the Pentagon to extend indefinitely a ban on transgender individuals joining the military. Questions remain on what happens to transgender individuals who already serve openly. The president gave Defense Secretary Jim Mattis the authority to decide. Activists blasted the ban today at today's news conference for transgender rights in San Diego.
We are now facing another attack from the White House on transgender and military, and that's not what we're here for today. But it just illustrates that the White House is that our transgender community is under attack from this White House.
In Sacramento, lawmakers already introduced a joint resolution condemning the decision.
Transgender soldiers should be judged by the same standards as everyone else. If they're qualified to serve and physically able to serve, they should serve. It doesn't matter what their gender is. It doesn't matter what their gender identity is.
Last week, Mattis suggested he was open to the possibility of allowing some transgender troops to remain in uniform. California could become the first state in the country to mandate LGBT rights training for businesses. State lawmakers say transgender workers experience higher unemployment rates and struggle to find work. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
You will not find a better worker than someone who has traditionally been pushed out of the workplace. If you give them that chance, I think you're going to find an incredible worker.
California lawmakers were in Hillcrest Friday at the San Diego LGBT Center, drumming up support for the Transgender Work Opportunity Act. Introduced by State Senator Ricardo Lara, the bill is designed to do three things: include gender identity and sexual orientation training for supervisors, require businesses to post transgender workers' rights, and it would enroll transgender people in programs designed to help them find jobs.
We've seen numerous stories of people being fired, or they simply just leave because even though California has the strongest anti-discrimination laws, we know that they're not being utilized or put into place by our trans community because many of them don't even know what their rights are.
The proposed legislation now faces a full vote by the Assembly. It would then have to clear the state Senate. Lawmakers will have to hurry, though. The last day to pass legislation this year is September 15th. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
In the past 12 months, San Diego County's Congress members and their staff have taken 17 trips paid for by nonprofits and think tanks. Almost $38,000 was spent on travel. Leonardo Castaneda with our media partner iNewsSource has this week's news and numbers.
It's perfectly legal for private groups to pay for congressional travel. House members from the staff say these trips educate them on issues like education and energy independence. 3 San Diego House members took trips during the last 12 months. Representative Susan Davis and her husband traveled to London. The Aspen Institute, an international think tank, picked up the $14,000 tab. Davis said she learned a lot from the speakers.
And it's not just that they come in and give a speech and leave. They're there and they're available, and people are basically working all days that they're there.
I talked with San Diego political science professor Carl Luna. He says if the trips are worthwhile, the government should pay for them.
When congressmen take money for travel, for exploration, for fact-finding, as they like to call junkets, from any entity, be it a corporation or a nonprofit or an individual, the question is, what do the people paying for it want out of that connection? At a minimum.
As for the others, Darryl Issa took 2 trips, including one to LA to appear on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher. The show paid $1,200 for his travel. Duncan Hunter took 1 trip to Georgia in Eastern Europe. The U.S.-Georgia Friendship Association, a San Diego nonprofit, paid the $5,600 bill. Juan Vargas and Scott Peters didn't take any privately funded trips, but their staffers did. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Leonardo Castaneda.
iNewsSource is a nonprofit, independently funded partner of KPBS. The ACLU is suing California for disenfranchising voters. The ACLU is challenging a state law which allowed election officials to toss out 45,000 ballots last year because their ballot signature didn't match the one on file. In a statement, the ACLU said the law disproportionately affects Latino and Asian American voters. The San Diego County Health Agency wants more people to get vaccinated for hepatitis A. The HHSA is expanding its list of who should get the vaccine to include people who handle food. The agency says an infected worker who serves food could expose more people to the disease than those in other professions. The recommendation comes during an outbreak of the disease that has killed 14 people and sent more than 250 to the hospital. San Diego and cities across America are trying to figure out how to help homeless people get off the streets and find beds of their own. As AP reporter Robert Ray explains, Atlanta is testing this approach by closing the city's shelter of last resort.
For the over 3,500 homeless people in Atlanta, this old warehouse is known as the shelter of last resort.
That we find housing and hopefully a job for me.
That's the hope for Laura Wheaton, who has lived with her 4 children at Atlanta's largest, the Peachtree Pine Shelter, for over a month. But the city and United Way are pursuing a $50 million plan that they say could fund 2 to 3 smaller shelters. Plans to slowly close the doors starting at the end of August have many residents of the shelter scared.
Because when they come in, whatever they got here, they're going to lock it up. As far as numbers, they won't let anybody else be assessed to be processed to go into a permanent housing or either another shelter. So those are the people I'm concerned about.
The shuttering of shelters is happening nationwide as people move back into urban developments. Cities that once herded the homeless into large downtown shelters are trying more integrated approaches aimed at quickly moving people into long-term housing that fits their needs.
I mean, the pressure on any community is the fact that real estate gets improved, the area gets gentrified, and then the area that was the housing maybe for low-income people or even a shelter in this case becomes desirable real estate, and so there's intense pressure to move that population to put in an office or a high-rise or something like that.
Atlanta's mayor claims the chronically homeless population declined 61% since 2013. But there are still thousands seeking shelter.
People ain't in shelters because they want to be in shelters. They're in shelters because they can't afford to be in anywhere else.
The city of Atlanta says 500 chronically homeless people and 300 homeless families in the Peachtree Pine Shelter will be humanely relocated.
That's the claim of the business community in the United Way, that they will meet the needs of the people in this facility. We're skeptical. And we'll be watching and we'll be monitoring and of course we'll be assisting too.
Laura Wheaton is also skeptical. Her kids need a school and a permanent roof over their heads.
They saying housing supposed to come for us and made it seem like it was going to be immediately, but it don't look like nothing is moving as quick as they said it would. So once we out of here, we got to figure out where we're going to go.
One step at a time for the Wheaton family and thousands of others struggling on street corners across America. Robert Ray, Associated Press, Atlanta.
We take a close look at what the Navy is doing about those deadly collisions in the Pacific and at why 2 judges made a surprising recommendation on who's responsible for the remaining costs in the deadly 2007 wildfires. That and more on the Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
There's a huge storm headed towards the Texas coast, and it's drawing comparisons to Hurricane Katrina. Tens of thousands of people are getting out of the way of Hurricane Harvey. It's been upgraded to a Category 4 storm, packing a punch with powerful winds up to 120 miles per hour. Gulf Coast cities are bracing for flooding. A San Diego-based medical response team traveled to Texas to help. This week, cities like El Cajon and Vista reach record lows for August. But don't pull out your scarves just yet. This unseasonably cool weather is coming to an end. Regina Miller has more in tonight's forecast.
Well, as we take a look here across coastal California, things are quiet. San Diego on up to Los Angeles. If you want to see any activity, you've got to head into parts of Arizona and also New Mexico, where there's a couple of showers and thunderstorms popping up in those locations. In the metro areas for tonight, partly cloudy, an overnight low of 67 degrees. And in other locations here, Borrego Springs is clear skies and 80 degrees. It's clear in Mount Laguna at 62. Ramona is at 59 degrees. Oceanside, 64 degrees. It is going to be sizzling for your Saturday. The beach is still going to stay cooler, but eventually this heat kind of goes all over the place, especially for the second half of the weekend. A big area of high pressure in place. Now, for tomorrow, we're going to see a high temperature in Ramona of 94 degrees with sunshine. We'll have any clouds giving way to sunshine here in San Diego at 77. So temperature pretty comfortable there in San Diego for tomorrow. Borrego Springs is at 111. Mount Laguna is at 84 degrees, but the heat is going to start to build for the late weekend and early next week. In fact, we have excessive heat watches in effect for Sunday in San Diego and interior locations all the way up into Los Angeles as well. So along the coast, mostly sunny for your Saturday. By Sunday, we get to 82 degrees, plus it becomes more humid, so it'll feel even warmer than that. On Monday, mostly sunny and warm. Look at that, 88 degrees, and we're up to 90 degrees along the coast by Tuesday with mostly sunny skies. Inland locations, we go from 88 on Saturday with plenty of sun to 100 degrees on Monday, 103 by Tuesday, so very hot conditions right through the midweek. In the mountain areas, plenty of sunshine and 84 on Saturday, and by Monday, we're up to 87 degrees with a chance for a stray thunderstorm because we'll have some of the moisture building in. 88 with a thunderstorm possible on Tuesday, 90 on Wednesday. In the desert locations, sunny and hot. On Sunday, we'll be up to 112, and then we're at 110 on Monday and Tuesday, 111 as we get into Wednesday. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
They're growing up so fast. Excited freshmen and their emotional parents took over San Diego State University today. We're talking about Move-In Day. KPBS video journalist Katie Shulove says it's a record year for the Aztecs.
It's Move-In Day at SDSU, and all over campus there's road closures and bustling families lugging cartloads of necessities to their new homes.
What?
Finance major Patrina Picarello drove down from San Jose with her dad to move in today. It's her senior year, and she says she's way less stressed than her freshman year move-in day.
It's so much different. It's not as stressful as it was just because I kind of have an idea of what's going to happen and what's going on. I know the campus now, so it's easier to get around. And moving in, it's still stressful, but I have everything that I need, so it's okay.
SDSU received more than 83,000 applications for fall 2017, and the pool was the most academically accomplished and geographically diverse in university history. More than 8,000 new freshmen and transfer students are joining SDSU this semester. Katie Shulove, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, grappling with history, we explore the growing controversy over what to do with Confederate statues. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour.
It's a race against time to save the California condor. Lead poisoning is the greatest threat to this bird population. In tonight's Earth Fix report, producer Vince Patton introduces us to the people trying to save these rare birds.
Cradled under a soft, simple towel, Kelly Walker holds one of the rarest animals anywhere. In fact, one of the last of its kind on the planet.
Come over and grab us legs, please. Thank you.
With luck and a lot of hard work, it could grow up to have a 10-foot wingspan.
She's just getting her primaries open.
And join the largest land birds in North America, the California condor. The Oregon Zoo is one of 4 facilities in the national effort to breed condors to bring them back from the edge of extinction, truly the very brink. In the late 80s, their population had plunged to just 22 birds left in the entire world. In a last-ditch effort, federal biologists captured every last one of them in the Southwest to keep the species alive. Captive breeding is bringing them back.
Yeah, you started out with 22 and now you're almost at 400.
Still a very limited population, but that's pretty phenomenal in itself. To send them off and to know that they're free flying, that's why we do this program. That's my favorite part of it. This project would be a success if it was a self-sustaining population, but it's not because they're being poisoned.
Despite so many successful releases, condors continue to die prematurely. They're eating lead.
That is the primary and almost only problem in this program, is the lead.
1/4 of the birds raised at the Oregon Zoo and then released have perished. Most of them from acute lead poisoning.
It only takes a tiny, tiny bit of lead to affect these birds. It's the biggest issue. So the highest mortality is from lead ammunition in condors, by far.
The National Rifle Association disputes that bullets from hunting game can be linked to the condor deaths. But a study released in 2012 from the University of California found that lead swallowed by condors had to come from bullets based on identical matches detectable at the molecular level.
For the blood from this bird, the ratio of those 4 isotopes look exactly like the ratio in this fragment. Exactly. The vast majority of cases, all of the birds that are lead poisoned, their lead fingerprint looks exactly like the lead fingerprint from lead-based ammunition.
It's not that the condors are being shot, it's what they eat. The gut piles that hunters leave behind after killing and cleaning their game. For scavengers, it's the perfect meal.
Hunters are actually great for condors. Hunters are fantastic. It provides a food source. It's awesome. And if it wasn't tainted with lead, it'd be fantastic.
Deaths from lead poisoning have become such a problem that conservation teams in California put out food for the wild condors now flying free to ensure they get clean meat. But it's not enough. They can fly over 150 miles in a day and still feed on lead-tainted animals. Then biologists have to lure the condors back in with food and recapture the birds. They take them to the Los Angeles Zoo, where they get nearly a week of treatments for lead poisoning.
Have we pulled fragments from birds that ended up being lead ammunition? Yeah, plenty of them. Have birds regurgitated fragments that after they were analyzed turned out to be ammunition? Yeah, we have all of those things. Nowhere would we have imagined that we would be taking care of 15 birds at a time that are wild, that are just coming in because of lead toxicity.
Mike Clark at the LA Zoo told the filmmaker of Shadow of the Condor that they cleanse their blood of the toxins, but they never managed to get the lead levels to completely disappear. There is little doubt that condors would be extinct if an immense collective national effort had not orchestrated their salvation. More than 400 are free again, but they still get so much help from humans, it's hard to call them wild.
We know that the field crews are doing their darndest not to let anybody die of lead. But we know that they're going to. We're just losing too many of them or having to treat too many of them. So if we could stop doing that, the program would be a success. You just keep fighting the good fight. What else are you going to do? You wish them luck and let them go.
That story comes to us from EarthFix, an environmental reporting project made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. A tiger cub needs a home after being rescued from the U.S.-Mexico border. Meet Blanca. That's what animal handlers at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park are calling the cub. They estimate he's between 5 and 6 weeks old. They say he's teething but otherwise healthy. He was discovered by border agents during a vehicle inspection on Wednesday at the Otay Mesa port of entry. Authorities arrested an 18-year-old who they say was attempting to smuggle the endangered species into the U.S. from Mexico to keep him as a pet. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services is looking for a permanent home for the tiger. In the meantime, guests to the safari park can see him from the nursery window. For some, a specialty coffee shop in a low-income neighborhood may prompt fears of gentrification. In one Southern California city, in fact, a new Java spot even sparked protest. But in San Diego, KPBS City Heights reporter Taryn Minto tells us a coffee shop aims to build unity.
Down an alley off busy El Cajon Boulevard, you'll find the nonprofit City Heights Coffee House. Co-founder and City Heights resident Sterling Tran says the idea was born after neighbors told her the low-income community needed more local employment opportunities and a gathering site.
Well, the idea of a communal space where many cultures could mix and hang out, and where we could provide jobs.
Tran says the shop launched a job training program and hopes the space will foster in-depth conversations among the community. The coffee house is hosting a public discussion about stress management Saturday morning at 11. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition.